I think part of my job has been done today because in the first half you saw a number of presentations and the use cases were mostly around merchant payments. So I'll briefly speak about the work which we are doing, and two of my colleagues, Inong and Bonaparte, if you are here in the room. Yeah. So they will also join and describe some of the work which they are doing. So it will be a shared presentation. Just a recap what we are trying to do in this work stream. As discussed yesterday, the Mojalu payment system facilitates transfer of funds between various institutions, and merchant payments is an important use case which we are seeing as a use case required for adoption. So compared to a transfer, a payment has certain properties that a payment has got certain information associated with it, and an exchange of value happens, and there is some exchange of goods or services attached to that, which means that there will be a certain amount of disputes, frauds, various kinds of limit checks. We talked about notifications yesterday. So all of those tooling is required. And part of that tool to support merchant payments is what we have done in this work stream. So since the last PI, in the last PI, we had this target that whatever we are trying to build, it should be available to the community as a production grade components. So the Mojalu Foundation shared with us a release checklist in order to verify that we meet all the technical criteria. So that's what we have achieved in this PI. So it's production ready, and barring some logistics, it will be pushed in production next week. So the other part is there were some enhancements which we thought we should do in the merchant payment portal which we had created. So those enhancements are done, and the last thing was to set up a demo lab. The adopters can see in real time and experience using mobile apps how the merchant payments work, and all the demo lab source code is there for people to download and set up their own environment to do an end-to-end demo. So these three things which we are working, and I'll come to the PI 24 tasks at the end. So to start with, this update on the PI 23 goals, I'd like my colleague Inong to share, because most of the work in this part has been done by the team from Thitsa Works. So she'll speak about it.
Hi everyone, this is Pete from Tesawalk. I'm a product manager. I have been contributing to the merchant workstream since the beginning of this workstream. I mainly focus on the product related items. Okay, before I share the update that what we have been achieved in this PI, I like to share the high-level architecture of the merchant payment, and for the people who saw the merchant payment for the first time. So in the merchant payment system, we have the merchant registry Oracle as the major component of the system. So in the registry, the mapping information of the DFSP and the merchant alias is mainly stored in that Oracle. And the other major component of the merchant payment system is the acquiring portal, which is intended for the acquiring DFSP who doesn't have the acquiring their own acquiring portal. So By using the acquiring portal, they can manage their merchant information. And we have also added the mega checker mechanism for the acquiring portal. So for the acquiring DFSB which already have the acquiring portal, they can use the API to update the merchant information to the merchant registry. So in case of alias, we consider two cases. So for the merchant who already got the alias from their TFSP, we directly store those alias and TFSP mapping in the acquiring portal and also pass those information to the registry oracle. So for the merchant who doesn't have the alias, then we have the alias generation component. And so in the alias generation, we consider both use cases. One is for the smartphone use cases, and the other is USSD. So in order to facilitate both use cases, we make the alias generation into simple numeric code instead of alphanumeric or alphabetic code. So after the alias has been generated, so we pass this alias information to the registry oracle. So after all those alias information has been passed through the oracle, we generated the QR code based on the EMV code standard. So in EMV code standard, there are some mandatory fee that has to be added in order to encode the merchant information. Those information are stored in the acquiring portal and didn't include in the merchant registry, since the merchant registry are only intended for the local service. So the QR code is generated in the acquiring side of the system, and yes. So what have we done in this PI? In the previous PI, we have completed most of the items that we intended to add in the MVP version or the merchant payment system. So in this PI, our focus is to make those things into production ready package. So there's a checklist provided by the Mojalu Foundation and in order to make that into reality. So there are total of 32 items that we have to complete it for the release checklist. Some of the items are related to the documentation. So under the area, we have done the documentation for from the design and requirement all the way to the deployment guideline. And we also done the CI/CD pipeline that recommended by the Mojalu Foundation that include the license check, the link check, and vulnerability check, and so on. We have two GitHub repository in the merchant registry workstream. One is the documentation, and the other one is for the accurate implementation. So we have done all the GitHub repository structuring that align with the Mojalu guideline. And for the release and test automation, we have done the unit testing, integration testing, and functional testing. The test coverage for those or all of those has been over 90% already. And for the IAC, we have also completed the ham chat creation as well. So since we already completed all those checklists, we are hoping to release the version 1 of the merchant payment system in next few days. So even though our objective for this PI is to make the already completed item to the release, there are some few features that we also completed in this PI. So before going into detail, I would like to talk about the process we go through to complete those features. So let's say for the feature that we would like to complete in the sprint end, we usually discuss all the detail requirement in the sprint end -1. So after those discussion, we document all the requirement, and since we have the acquiring bottom component, we develop the mock-up design in the Figma. And for the technical design, we develop the documentation as well as the diagram, such as sequence diagrams and architecture diagram. So after completing all of those, we share those documents with the Workstream members. So after getting their feedback, we iterate some few iteration and finalize the requirement, and then we develop those items in sprints. And the pull requests are usually approved by Sam. So in sprint M+1, we usually do the QA testing. So in case of QA testing, we then put the interface level and the API level. So in each step of the way, we document everything from the design and for the QA test cases and the test results as well. So the reason why we document this much is that if newcomer want to contribute in this work stream, they don't have so that they don't have to spend so much time figuring out why we do what we do, how to set up things. That's the reason why we do much documentation. So in case of new feature that we develop in this PI, we already done some item in the area of user management. So we enhance some those item in this PI. So in user management, there will be two for now, there will be two main parties. One will be hub and the other one will be the acquiring DFSP. So in the upcoming PI, there will be new party as well, which is the merchant and merchant self-registry. So we enhance the user management module, and the other one is the DFSP onboarding. We also done that one as well. Since I shared in the previous slide, we also done the user QR code generation by using the EMV Go standard. And we have added the Google reCAPTCHA in sign up stage as well. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
I would like Bonaparte to join, but while he's coming, yeah, please. So he'll speak a bit about adoption in Rwanda. Yesterday, when Wired team was showing the work which they've done in Rwanda, part of, the success of what, was just talking about the need for properly documenting the whole thing is that the team from Wired just joined our work stream in this PI, and they were able to use whatever was already developed. And I think sooner we will see it in production in Rwanda, the whole merchant payments portal and everything. So Bonaparte, you can speak about what things you are doing in Rwanda.
Good afternoon again, everyone. So as we were talking about in yesterday's session, in terms of our deployment of module loop switch in Rwanda, we were able to achieve end-to-end payments. And for us to make that, we of course made use of this merchant acquiring portal. So I'm here to talk about how we used it and where we're coming from while using this system. So maybe before I talk about how we used it, a bit of a background. So in Rwanda, the main difference that we immediately noticed when we were starting to use this portal is that so the whole merchants data, including generating QR code, so generating aliases or tweet codes and everything are all owned by DFSPs. And DFSPs have the responsibility to periodically push changes, whether it's new merchants or existing data have been updated, they have to push those informations to the switch. And with that, if any merchant is not available in the switch, in terms of payment through this switch that are working on, that is considered in an existing merchant, even though the merchant might already have been registered at the DFSP level. So going in this, the same requirements remained. So the switch will still have a merchant database, but that everything in that database basically will still come from DFSPs. But we, as the switch, had to make sure that merchant code do not collide, because you have multiple DFSPs that are or giving you the merchants that have been registered with them. Chances are they are going to collide at some point. So some discussions that are ongoing on that point is how do we handle that situation? One obvious answer is to give that responsibility of registering merchant to the switch, which will most likely not work, considering we already have DFSPs that have a big database of merchants that are already work and are registered with them. So the feeling is that everything is tending towards the switch, just communicating some standards around generating merchants. And then as long as every DFSP abides by those standards, then we will not worry about the collision at all. But this is still an ongoing discussion. So how we've adopted this so far is we have this merchant acquiring system in our Kubernetes cluster already and working. So we onboard DFSPs on the portal, on the user interface. On that point, since we are onboarding DFSPs on the merchant portal and on the other hand, also on the hub operation, hub operator UI, we also onboard DFSPs. So we wanted to make that, instead of doing that same work twice, we want to kind of synchronize those. That is still in progress. For us to be able to add merchants, of course, coming from DFSPs, that is an API that has been implemented that DFSPs call to add their own merchants. And we also added another set of APIs for account lookup to query those merchants, because the difference here, the lookup APIs that were already there, did not return enough information for our use case. So we had to add new ones that give us a full set of information that we need from the merchant. So with that approach, there are some things that we started thinking about and that we still discussing with Karim and other people involved in the merchant workstream is that since we don't really use the part of the merchant acquiring portal that is responsible for generating till codes and aliases, so we thought maybe we could make the whole system smaller, since at that point it's just a database that has an endpoint for account lookup service. So we thought the Oracle, what is the Oracle, should be merged with the merchant acquiring backend. at that point. And then that way we reduce the number of services that we have to deploy and maintain. And also we anticipate, or it's very obvious that the merchant database will get pretty huge very quickly. So we need to make sure that performance is still ensured, because our main goal is to make the lookup process as fast as possible. So with that, if we look at the schema that my colleague from TISAWAC showed us, for what is being used in our system right now, it's basically everything except the registry database, the Oracle. Of course, the RabbitMQ goes with that. And then we connect the account lookup that service directly to the merchant acquiring backend. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. So, I mean, one of the reasons why I invited Wired team was because they took the software from where it was and they've started doing some adoption and some changes on the way. And we didn't stop that process. We discussed and agreed that during the weekly planning meetings that we are having, so whatever changes they're doing, which are specific to Rwanda, may not be similar in other countries. But when we merged the code, the changes which they are doing, at that point, we ensure that the software is flexible to support both the models, where in one country, for example, the DFSPs don't want to use the portal. They just want to push the data through APIs into the system. But in some other countries where there isn't a pre-existence of merchant management systems with all the institutions, so they can use the system as is. So I'll move to the last part of my presentation. I've got 8 minutes left. So it's a small update, and I mean, you have seen a lot of presentations around QR codes and request to pay. So the idea was that I mean, prior to this convening, whenever we are talking about Mojo Loop and payments, a lot of time that people who are trying to adopt or people who are joining the community, they would need a starting point to see everything in action. So our purpose was that this whole portal which we have created, the standard Mojo Loop or a mini loop version of which, and an acquiring and issuing system, both having a customer and payer and payee apps, those should be set up in a demo lab environment. That was one of the goals. So this is what it looks like. And we have, I mean, Paces as a company, we have our own middleware called Open Connect, which we use for integration. So we integrated, use the scheme adapter, and our team connected it to the Mojo Loop and has set up a consumer app and a merchant app just to have this whole demo lab environment. What we intend to do is upload all this code in a public repository. So anyone who wants to experience this whole environment, they can, as an end user, simply download the apps and start using it with test accounts and see the transactions happening on Mojo Loop. So this is something which it will look like. By the way, this presentation where I'm showing this merchant app, which generates a QR code and then customer app. So this work was actually done in 2018 and 2019 when we were trying to do a POC in Southeast Asia, in Philippines actually. So this is how the transaction happens. And behind the scenes, I've just kept the TTK to show that this is all. So this lab is now set up. This environment is available in anyone who wants to do access, they can contact me. I'm in Merchant Payments Workstream Slack channel on the Mojo Loop community. So apart from this, I mean, there are a few learnings from other implementations. So I mean, when we talk about the use cases, when we say QR code payments or request to pay mode of payment, there are more nuances to it, like the type of information which will travel, whether you are using static QR codes or dynamic QR codes. Uh, because if you want to use a QR code in a scenario where it's a one-time use only QR code. Um, we did that study, and we have documented number of use cases which have been implemented in terms of different variety of use cases within QR code and within request to pay mode. Uh, what kind of visual experience in terms of customer and merchant experience should be there? Who initiates the payment? How does the notification comes? I mean, generally the default way of thinking about a notification is an SMS, but most of you must have seen adoption of Soundbox in many markets, because audio notifications are better for, I mean, if it's a noisy place, then the merchant, as soon as they receive a payment, they need a notification. So some visual journeys we had created as we went along the way, implementing person to merchant payments in Pakistan. So all of those videos and the customer experience journeys, we have collected them, and we'll be sharing that as presentation. I'll try to see if I can show some of them. I heard that there's a problem with the audio. And then I'll come to this part after. So these are the use cases, like who is the payer, who is the payee. So even with a simple QR, you can have a without an amount, with amount, or with some sort of expiry date. And because most of the countries are adopting EMV-Co as a standard, so the QR code itself carry a lot of information. For example, if a merchant wants that whenever a customer is paying through a QR, they want to signal them to provide some information about them, address, mobile, or email. So in an e-commerce scenario where I'm trying to pay using QR online, the merchant can collect information, ask the customer a few questions. Similarly, in a food or hospitality setup, you can put a tag in the QR. And if someone has done that EMV-Co standard implementation, it will ask for maybe a tip at the point. I'll just skip through these journeys. So this videos and everything is there available. I mean, you have seen QR payments a lot, but just to show that when we implemented this in our country, so the audio is not there, but this would speak up. The merchant side of the app would tell the merchant that unless you don't get a notification, don't consider the transaction as complete. So there's no dispute about the payment. So as soon as the payment is done, they get the notification, and then a better user experience is that they have the details of all the transactions, authorization and settlement details, whether they've been paid or not. And when it comes to request to pay, what kind of elements you need to show on the screen, how long this request to pay is valid, does it have an expiry time? So these user experience elements matter a lot when it comes to implementation. So coming back to what's next. So we have we have talked about creating APIs around merchant and alias registration process. That's a work in progress, which is being done in Rwanda. In this PI, we are thinking about this whole list. What's important, and my message over here, because there are a lot of adopters in the room, that we want people who are looking at adoption to give us their feedback, what should be prioritized. So for example, I mean, we are thinking of cross scheme or cross border support. Do we need to change anything in the merchant registry? If I have to interrogate, I mean, if I'm trying to pay to a merchant who is not registered in the same country, how does the discovery phase happen? Does it require any changes in the merchant registry? So that's one area which we are prioritizing. The other is integration with Tazama, which is an open source FRMS. So that's part of the plan that we work on that. Merchant self-service features, earlier we thought that merchants also need to have access to some kind of portal where they can download their QR, or if they decide that they want to keep the same alias but change the DFSP, they can do so. But I'm not sure. Like we discussed with our colleagues in Rwanda, they said it's not a priority for us. So we want to hear more from adopters and they can join our work stream to give that input. So I'm just finished my time. Just last few credits. So these are the companies who participate in the work stream regularly. And this is the list of people. So a huge round of applause for all of them. They are the ones who made that happen.